Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I recently purchased two products out of the new Natasha Denona My Dream collection. Of course, I had to have the My Dream eyeshadow palette, and I also did pick up the My Dream Cheek Trio. So I personally did not purchase these on pre-order off of the Natasha Denona website. I waited for them to go on the Sephora app, and I think they released a little bit early on the app. But this palette, the eyeshadow palette, was $69, which I do think is a couple dollars more expensive than the mid-size palettes in the past. And then the Cheek Trio was $48, which is pretty pricey. If you guys are unfamiliar with Natasha Denona, their formulas are some of the best, in my opinion, on the market. Their prices are high. They always have been high, but these mid-size palettes are really nice because they bring that price down a little bit from the larger $125 palettes. I'm not even sure if they still do those. I much prefer this size and this price point. So this palette really caught my eye because for me, this is like the epitome of fall, and I get very inspired by fall. You guys may know I'm a sucker. I'm obsessed with fall. So it did give fall vibes, but also just the fact that Natasha Denona said that these are her favorite shades, all reformulated and put into her dream palette. Like, that did really catch my attention. I ended up watching her Instagram live, I believe, or Instagram stories, explaining every single one of these shades, and the swatches really mesmerized me. So I do look forward to swatching this for you guys. This is where my review gets a little different. I scooted over a little bit because I'm gonna pop up my quick tutorial. I'm going to explain to you what I did on my eyes today. It was my first time trying this palette. So first up, I used the shade Unity all over my lid. I did have concealer down as a base. This is like a peachy matte shade. I just laid it down as a transition. And then I went in with the shade Nurture. This is more of a true transition light brown shade. I put this in the outer corner of my eye just to add a little bit of dimension and really get ready for the lid shade. I ended up going in with Carpe Diem, which is a little bit more of a rosy toned matte eyeshadow, and I just put it a little bit into the center crease of my eye, again just to round it out a little bit and get ready for the next shade. And then the star of the show today was definitely the metallic shade Babies, which I love that name for an eyeshadow for one thing, but I did apply this with my finger for full impact, and then I did go in with a brush to clean up, add a little bit more product, and this ended up being such a beautiful kind of rosy toned bronze eyeshadow. This look that I'm wearing today is definitely something I would wear on a regular basis. I wanted to play around with mattes and metallics to just see if it performs like I'm used to from Natasha Denona, and I will say it most definitely did. So I am going to one by one swatch this palette. We're going to start off with Blackest Black. Blackest Black is the first shade in the palette. It's a little bit self-explanatory. It is a matte black. The next shade in the palette is Aspiration. This is a nice deep dark chocolate brown. That is Aspiration. Not the best matte brown swatch I've ever swatched. I have said it before though, finger swatches are not the best determination of how a shadow is going to perform. Next up we have Serenity. This is a satiny, metallic, bronzy, kind of unique shade. Taupey, I don't know, I'm bad at explaining. That's a very, very pigmented swatch. That's a beautiful shade. Next up is Carpe Diem. This is kind of a pinkier brown, and this is a really beautiful transition shade. That one swatch is really buttery. Lastly, in the first row is the shade Babies. This is the shade that is all over my lid today. Beautiful, metallic, kind of rosy bronze. Swatch is like an absolute dream. Next up, we have the first shade in the second row, Instinct. This is like a satiny, purpley shade. I did accidentally dip my fingernail into the Blackest Black, so let me clean that up. It's such a beautiful plum shade. It's hard to describe, but it looks like velvet on my finger. Again, swatches really, really nicely. Next, we have another beautiful metallic. This one is called Thrill. This looks like a champagne gold shade. I've got a lot of black shadow on my hands, so I'm trying not to cross-contaminate with that. This looks like such a unique gold. Like, it has peachy undertones in it. I don't know how to explain it. Again, insane pigmentation. Next is the shade I started with, Unity. This is a light peach. I would say this is the lightest shade, matte shade in the palette. kind of blends in with my skin tone a little bit, but this is a really good transition. I think it's the lightest transition in the palette. There was a little chunk of eyeshadow, black eyeshadow in there because I have it on my fingernail, unfortunately. Next is Risk. This is more of a satiny kind of maroon, reddish brown. This reminds me of a shade out of the Anastasia Jackie Aina palette that I did a whole Christmas look surrounding. Next is the shade Invention, and this one, it just looks incredible in the pan, and it's like an orangey metallic, and I don't think I've seen anything like this. It reminds me of fall leaves. It gives me the fall vibe. That is stunning. Definitely a fiery orange, and I think it could even be used as a topper. Moving on to the bottom row, I think this first shade Vision is a duochrome. I think it's gonna have a lot of shift to it, purple to green to pink. It's very beautiful. Yeah, I have a hard time understanding how brands do this with the eyeshadow. I don't know if you guys can see the shift, but it goes from green to purple to pink. It's very, very beautiful duochrome. Next up is Edgy. This is a deep, deep purple, and I think it does have a little bit of that like creamy satin formula. I think this is how Natasha Denona does colors like this without them being patchy. Change the formula into like a bit of a cream, and it almost is like a base for eyeshadow, so it's not going to be patchy or chalky. Really, really beautiful. I need to use this shade. Next up is the shade Spontaneous. I think this is gonna be a little bit of a champagne color. I picked up way too much, but that is stunning. This literally just looks like paint on my hand. Like, it's so, so pigmented. Next up is Nurture. This is more of a kind of taupey transition color. My hand's a little wet from the baby wipe, but that is still a pretty good swatch. And last up is Familia. This is more of a warm tone brown, like a medium warm tone brown. And that is a beautiful matte. Now I'm gonna take a few moments to swatch this palette with my swatch stencil from my Etsy shop, and I will be back to show you what all the colors look like swatched next to each other. All right, so I just got done doing all the swatches, and this does look really, really beautiful all together. I will say some of the browns, the matte dark brown Aspiration, as well as Familia, took a little bit of extra work to swatch, but like I've said before, swatches are not always good indicators of how they will perform on the eyes. I'm just saying I've seen better swatches than those two, but for the most part, this is a super consistent formula with what I have seen before from Natasha Denona, and it really is all about what you need in your collection. For me, I really do love the combination. It's very, very fall, autumn, and I love that. I do have some of my other Natasha Denona palettes in front of me I can open just to compare. Obviously, the pastel palette is a polar opposite. I just want to show it because it's so cute and I love it. That's like a beautiful springtime palette. We'll say that this is the fall time palette, and we have the retro palette, which if you're looking for pinky romantic tone Valentine's Day palette, that's the retro palette. We have the glam palette, which is a all neutral palette, a little bit more on the cool tone side. So if you're looking for less of the purples and greens and stuff like that, you might really like an all neutral palette, which I would say is the glam palette. And then I also have the Sunrise palette, which I would say is the summer palette. I feel like I have all the seasons now. This is also nothing like the new palette, but it has a bunch of yellows, oranges, reds, warm tones, so I do kind of feel like I have a mid-size palette for almost every season. I'm lacking a deep winter Natasha Denona palette, but I do have like the big gold palette from Natasha Denona. I probably have plenty of winter shades, but maybe a mid-size like forest green themed palette in the future. I don't know what they have. They could already have that. I just don't own it. But I would say for the most part, this is different than the other Natasha Denona palettes that I have in my collection, which makes me happy about buying it. So I'm sorry for the lighting change. My power just went out, so I had to use my battery powered light, and hopefully it doesn't run out. We're just gonna quickly go over the cheek cheek trio. This was my first time using a face product from Natasha Denona. I love that the same beautiful packaging transfers over to this cheek trio. Do I think $48 is a little high? Yes, but so far it's a beautiful formula. Same thing as earlier. I'm gonna scoot over for my image right here, and I'm gonna show you I applied the cream blush to the apples of my cheeks, and it went on really nicely with a duo fiber brush. And then I did take a highlighter brush with the Glow Cream base. I did not yet go over with Dream Glow though. I haven't done that yet. I'm pretty content with the cream and how that turned out. I love a good cream product. So I'm just going to swatch these three for you really quickly so you can see what it looks like. I hate that my power's out. I hate that you guys might not be able to see this as well, but these are the shades. I just think it's absolutely stunning. So for me, it's worth it. I'm glad that I have it. That cream base for the highlighter, just as a standalone highlight, looks really, really beautiful and just really ethereal and skin-like. A real quick finger swatch. Not the best lighting, but absolutely beautiful. I love the blush color. I think it's beautiful and universal and really pretty for fall, but that middle cream highlighter base is definitely the star of the show for me. I think it's gonna give that model glow, and it's the only highlight I have on my face right now, and it's absolutely stunning. So that's it. I don't want this light to go out on me, so I'm going to wrap up this video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed this different format. If you guys want short form content, follow me on my Instagram and also my TikTok. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know what products you want me to review next, and hopefully I will see you guys very, very soon in my next video. Bye guys.